Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone if you enjoy this content to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Mary Dammann on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I ask about the weather, but like I said, I'm not even going to do that because it's just going to depress me. So to get things started, why don't you just first off give us your backstory on what inspired and motivated you to eventually become a bodybuilder and how it's led to where you're at right now?
Growing up, I dabbled in sports in school. And then after that, I became a partier in high school and then lived that college life, had a lot of fun, boys, booze, and drugs, did it all. It wasn't until 2018 I actually got a DUI. And that was a big eye opener for, how I was just living my life, super unhealthy, lots of health issues. And it was pretty much I was going to die one day from it or I needed a change. So I traded in drinking for the gym. It was a great trade and I have not looked back since.
You just got to mix drinking with the gym now. That's when things get really interesting.
Well, that's how it was in the beginning before I completely gave it up. And that's when I noticed it was, it's either I take this full ride or not because going to the gym with a hangover, oh, that was not fun.
That's why I'd always go, if I had to go, I'd just do a little buzz. And you make sure to not do the lifts where you could slip up. Like you're doing curls on like lifts where you're not endangering yourself, like if you're a little off a little bit. But those are the college years. That's a whole different podcast in and of itself there. That's a little different there. But yeah, I have not done that since. But when you were getting started, I mean, so many people when they look at changing their lifestyle, it just seems like such a huge cliff for them that they just aren't able to achieve it. Was that a struggle for you at all, or is it one of those things? Because there are other times I've talked to people where they're just like you said, it's literally I'm going to die or I'm going to improve myself. Where did you fall on that? Was it that much of a struggle for you? Because some people their weight loss journeys can be just monumental for them, and other people they really just have that dedication where it's not as bad as people think it is.
In the beginning, it was really hard to stick with it. There was lots of back and forth. I would go to the gym, hit and miss. It wasn't until I want to say the mid of 2019 that I actually took it serious. At that point in time, I was doing it for a couple of months. I started to see some progress. I started doing things at home, but it was at that line of, okay, do I want more? Do I want to take it serious? And if so, I have to dive down deep and really figure out what mattered to me.
Absolutely. And was it something that you saw results really quickly or results took over time? Because I know some people they just have that genetic makeup where they can lose weight really, really quickly, and other people it's like a walk through hell. What was that? Where did you fall on that?
Actually, I can put on mass very easy. It was losing the fat that was really hard for me because I started this journey over 200 pounds. So I did a completely body recomposition. I think I was over 40% body fat at the time that I actually started. So usually when you're morbidly obese, like where I was, I fell into that category because I'm under 5 foot. The weight came off pretty quickly in the beginning, but then after the first 20 to 30 pounds, it just stopped. And that's when I noticed and I found out what a plateau was. And that's when I really was just like, what do I do? I don't know what to do from here. And it was a lot of the gym community that actually really stepped up and was there for me. I met some really great people and some good friends. And they kind of gave me some pointers into, what to look into and what not to look into. And from there, I actually decided to stop getting the information from everybody else and study it. And I became a full on sports nutritionist and body specialist myself.
So I am 210 pounds myself, but I'm 6'3". So that's a little thing. So yeah, and I noticed that you can tell from some Instagram posts that some people aren't that tall, but I got to get into this now because the gym is not built for tall people. It is not built for short people at all either. So being 6'3", I mean, it's not that bad for me, but it still can be cumbersome. I mean, I have buddies that are 6'7", 6'8", and it's a little different story for them. But being that you're under 5 feet, the gym, that makes things a little bit more interesting. How do you sort of find ways to cope with the fact that, yeah, the gym is built for people that are 5'5", 5'6", basically. That's what it's built for.
I actually specialize in manipulation. I know how to modify and manipulate equipment and pieces of anything in the gym to actually get a great connection. A lot of it is you just have to know the angles of how the muscles are going to connect. So when you go into a movement, it's getting your body into a position for yourself to be able to use the equipment to get into it. A lot of it is you have to use pads. I mean, I will sit on different plates. I don't care. I grab random stuff all the time. You'll see me climb on things. It is a jungle gym for me.
This is also so much more of a mental journey than it is a physical journey, and I don't care what anyone says. That mental journey is 100 times more harder than any of the physical stuff that happens. And
Oh, 100%.
a lot of people just don't understand that because, like, they might notice you and be like, "Oh, Mary, you look amazing," if they haven't seen you for a while. But they don't understand that mental transformation has taken place as well. They can only notice the physical change. What has this journey been like for you mentally?
It's been a huge eye opener. I actually am in EMDR therapy. It's trauma therapy because, life happens. But when you get into bodybuilding, yes, there is a lot of mentality that goes into it. If you're not going to be mentally strong, you're not going to get where you need to go. The gym will break you down, the lifestyle will break you down. A lot of it is finding how to cope. And for me, the gym is my coping mechanism. It is what gives me that foundation. It gives me that strength and it gives me the control that I need to find my zen within.
And I mean, on top of just the mental journey as well, this is just so much more. I got to talk genetics because unfortunately they play a part in this lifestyle and I hate it more than life itself. I hear this all the time and I just want to, kill these people. Oh my God, I want his arms. I want her abs. I want their back. And you're just like, you can train just like someone. You can look just like them. You can have their same mentality. I don't care. You can do exactly everything the same. You can have the same bowel movements as they do. I don't care. You're not going to get the same results. I mean, unfortunately, that's just not the case. I could train just like Jay Cutler, and I unfortunately will not look like Jay Cutler. That's just not going to happen. But whenever someone first gets started working out, they always have that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And then they have that one body part that just drags behind it. They have to train into oblivion to get it to catch up. What was one body part that really took off for you? And what was one body part that you just had to drag behind?
My arms. My arms were the first ones that literally just blew up.
I've seen your
Everyone
posts. I know
stopped
they're
me.
ridiculously huge. It's not even fair.
I honestly will say when it
Here,
comes to the
give us a front double. Then you got to embarrass it. Good,
hold on. Let me roll up the sleeves.
good God. Yeah, that is ridiculous. Jesus, yeah, that is insane.
Yeah, my arms, at first, I've always had really thick arms. So I used to be very
They
self-conscious about
even got
them.
veins in them too. Jesus.
Well, thank you.
Oh God.
My legs, on the other hand, those are the hardest ones for me to trim down. I have a lot of mass in them, but at the same point in time, they're very thick. I carry a lot of my body fat in my lower half. And so those ones have taken me a minute.
I mean, it's somewhat similar to me. I mean, my back was the one thing that really took off for me because I had jobs in college where you're just working in warehouses loading boxes. So you got a nice back, you quit. But my legs, yeah, being 6'3", your legs, don't even get me started on that. It's not even funny. I've made the joke I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they're not going to gain an ounce. Just never. Calves, the most genetic body part on the planet. Don't even get me started on that. I mean, oh, that's a nightmare. That is just a nightmare waiting to happen. But so what are the reactions that you get seeing someone that's under 5 feet tall that's just absolutely jacked? Like, especially in the arms, like, what are some of the reactions that you get? Because I would find that if I saw that in public and I hadn't done this podcast and like gotten to know so many of them, I would just be like, okay, that's the most fascinating thing I've ever seen, really.
A lot of people stop me and ask me, like, what did you do to your arms? Like, what did you do? How did you get them so fit? It's the one thing that people actually stop me over. That and my shoulders. They always comment on that. I always
You should
get
just tell them
tons
I
of.
did absolutely nothing. I just woke up like this one day.
I was like, I eat small children for breakfast.
Hey, that helps. That's protein. I mean, that's, I guess, So you brought up eating small children, so that sort of leans into my question about nutrition. what, what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you've made as you've gotten more and more into this lifestyle, other than eating small children, I should say?
I actually used to be a frequent fast food eater. Now I have not touched fast food in over 4 years.
Be honest, do you miss it just a little bit?
Every now and then I do, especially because of it's everywhere. Everyone wants to go there. You see it all over everything. It's advertised. I mean, it even does smell good. But for me, because I've been eating so clean for so long, as soon as I go to eat something like that, I know I will get sick. There are certain restaurants out here that, don't even use the cleanest ingredients. I eat restaurants and I'll get sick.
I mean, every Thursday for me, I either go to KFC, McDonald's, or Burger King, or like a Subway. That's my one day where I can, that's my one
I mean,
lunch.
Subway's passable.
Yeah.
Subway's passable.
Yeah. Subways, if I'm feeling really bad about myself and I'm like, okay, I can't really gain that much, then you go and have a Subway, then you're fine. But like, yeah, KFC is one of those days. I mean, as we're getting closer to Thanksgiving, I'm not going to do the KFC because I'm just not doing that anyways. But how do you deal with holidays too? Now that we are talking, before Thanksgiving and it's coming up, and I know a lot of people they do that idiotic thing where they bring their own food and they're just like, I can't eat it. And then I know other people that like actually just enjoy their stuff. Where do you fall on that? Do you enjoy yourself, or are you that person that shows up with like salad and you're just like, I'm sorry, I can't eat?
Currently right now, because I'm actually in a prep, I haven't really told many people about it, but I am going to be doing a competition in July and going for two of them. So right now, I don't know how my holidays are going to go because I'm in the middle of prep. But typically, that's one of the things, and that's why I became a nutritionist. It's because I love food. I am a foodie too. Like I will die because I love food so much. But I also have found out there are many different ways of cooking to where you can still get the same satiation, but not the guilt. And so a lot of the times, I will bring dishes for people to try. And so, there are healthier alternatives as well as everyone else's food. And a lot of it just comes down to portions. You just got to control yourself. Don't sit there and eat a whole pie, but yes, you can go ahead and have a slice of it. I mean, if you're not going to indulge, then it's going to break you. You have to be able to give yourself those little leeways to enjoy that food, or you're going to actually end up overeating and gorging.
So now this is sort of a trick question that I just came up in my head, everyone. So if you could, what is one food that you could eat that like there's always that one food that you can eat forever and like you won't ever get tired of it, and then there's always that one food that's so good that if you eat it too much you don't like it. What is one food that you think that you could eat forever and never get tired of it and still love it? And what is one food that you love but like if you ate it too much you would probably get sick of it?
I'll answer the second one first because I've already had that happen. Chicken.
Yep.
I love chicken, but because it's one of the leanest and easiest ones to eat all the time, I already went through a period of time I ate it too much that I had to stop eating it for 6 months because no matter which way you cooked it, I wanted to gag and throw it up because it just left this nasty taste in my mouth. Now, for the food that I can eat and never get tired of, there's two. It's either going to be tacos or cheesecake.
That's from. I mean, my uncle's beef jerky that he makes is probably the one for me that I could just eat forever and go. I mean, again, I will probably die of a sodium heart attack, but hey, it will be worth it. But yeah, for me, the one food that I could eat all the time, and then I got sick of it, was scrambled eggs. I ate them so much that I had them almost like every day for like a full year, and then I just got so sick and tired of them that like. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then chicken too. I still eat chicken, but now I almost have to burn it because I had a bad experience where I undercooked it one time and then I got food poisoning.
Oh.
Yeah. So now it has to be crunchy basically chicken. So, I put it in there for I put so much seasoning and stuff on it that like you can't tell that it's basically burnt basically, but
For me, it's the dryness. You can't get past the dryness.
that's why you just got to have like a gallon of water with you and help you power through it basically, but
I have a lot of hot sauce. Hot sauce is my best friend. That and mustard.
I'm too Scandinavian for hot sauce. It will literally kill me. So it will just make me just dry sweat. Like it's just I'm not built for any spicy food. Mexican food, I'll have a quesadilla. That's as hot. That's as far as I go, just because my body just cannot handle. Like I've had tacos, like meat tacos, and those are fine. But like I still get a little. I even sweat from that, just from like the regular like spicy meat that they have. Basically, it's
Oh,
like
you're missing out.
no, I'm not because I will die. So it's not. But like I've tried Indian food before, and that was one of the worst nights of my life. I have nothing against the Indian people and their food, but like I was on the toilet for like 3 hours. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was
See, I
bad.
love curry and I love all those different spices. Thai food has to be my ultimate favorite, though.
Which is weird though, because like I love cinnamon and stuff like I love other spices too, but like there's just some of them that like literally I just can't fathom. So yeah, I do not know. And this is also such a sport of trial and error as well, and just a lifestyle, and that's why a lot of people I think give up because they walk into the gym and they just assume that like, hey, I'm gonna get these results overnight, and then they train like Rambo, and then they last a week because it's like, oh, you were working out 3 hours a day for a week, basically, you're not gonna last. But is the trial and error part, has that been difficult for you, or has it been more rewarding for you? Because as much as people like to complain about those instances that they like slip up and they don't understand, in hindsight they really do mean a lot. But do you fall in that category of like this is all just a part of the journey, or are you one of those people that like let's be honest, I'm pissed off that like I slipped up a little bit?
Um, Mine's a little bit different. I actually, in the beginning of first getting into it, I didn't have any real understanding of what was going on. And so I did get pretty defeated in the gym in the beginning because now I have A lot of injuries. I have both labrums have torn. I have pieces of my bicep that have been
Well,
torn.
yeah, you're under
My
5 feet and you're that huge. Jesus Christ, what do you expect? the body's like
yeah, so
the body's like Mary. We can't support this. Good God, your bones are probably just like barely hanging on.
yeah, so my body is pretty thrashed. But now from where I'm at, looking back, if it wasn't for all the damage that I have, I wouldn't have the respect that I have for it. I wouldn't have the mindset, I wouldn't have the determination, and I wouldn't have the education or knowledge. With every injury I have, and every time I've had to go see a specialist, it has taught me more and more about the body's threshold, the resilience the body brings. And truly, if you really feed your body correctly and you take the time to heal it and understand it, you don't have to get all these different surgeries. You don't have to be on all these medications. It's literally a mind body connection. And it's very spiritual and it's beautiful once you find it to actually get where you need to go.
Believe it or not, I've only had one injury, and it was the injury I talked to you about that ended my baseball career. I've never been injured one. Although I did, so I was that one freak kid that was. I'm 6'3" and I was 6'3" in sixth grade. That's the tallest. I was that one kid that just shot up really, really quickly and just stayed like that. So I had Osgood slaughter because my body was like, "What the hell's going on here? Like, you're not supposed. Maybe you should wait until like high school to get this tall." But so yeah, when people talk about their injuries, I was like, yeah, I mean, I've had times where I'm sore and stuff. So has it been difficult? Because I'm one of those people where it took me forever to sort of realize the difference between pain and injury, especially when training. Did that take you a while? Because I know some bodybuilders were like, they can convince themselves that their injury is just pain.
Actually, I just found out I had a lat tear and I didn't know.
Yep.
Yeah, so there is a difference between pain and then an injury pain. And I do tell my clients that, and I can explain it to them perfectly. But now coming to my own body, no, I don't take my own advice. I'm like, we'll push through it. We'll be fine.
There are some people that have like those torn pecs where you can see like they're just dark purple basically then because the blood, and they'll be like, yeah, let's go work out today, and it's like, what are you doing with your? I don't know. So yeah, that's I mean, again, that's just the drive and dedication of bodybuilders because like yeah, everything that can go wrong will go wrong eventually in at least one of your preps. But yeah, what was probably one thing about this lifestyle that surprised you the most when you got into it? Because when a lot of people talk about bodybuilding, especially on the female side, like there's so many myths and stereotypes about the sport.
In the beginning, it was the lack of support that I actually had. I mean, it was to the point that my parents didn't even support me in this in the beginning because they're just like, oh, when you get older, you're going to get all flabby, all your muscles going to disappear, you're going to be gross, you're going to be disgusting. And then the other stigma, it's bodybuilders are just giant meatheads. We don't have any depth to us. We don't know anything outside of just lift weights, eat, and sleep. But it was once I actually got into it and I actually got to meet a lot of different people, there is a whole community out there. Once I started taking it serious and I started actually giving myself some self love, more people started to support me. My parents are now very proud. They're my biggest supporters. It was once I found the connection with it and I was happy with it, and you can see the passion I had for it. Then everyone was like, wow, like you look happier, you're looking great. Like, what are you doing? And then it became a huge talking point from that point. And now it's just educating others on, health and fitness is an investment you need to take on for yourself to have longevity in life and to actually truly enjoy life. So now it's kind of like breaking the stigma on it. I'm in the middle of actually writing a book on bodybuilding is for everybody because it's building the body you want for life. And your body is your temple, and it's about how you're going to invest in it.
I have interviewed 500 bodybuilders, and I will say 50 of them meet the meathead stereotype. It's only 10%, really. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would love to say not all of them are just meatheads, but there's been like 50 of them where I literally think that they just wake up and they're just like, eat, work out, sleep, repeat, and they don't say any other words. They just grunt when they're working out, and then there's like they literally just they exist just to do that. Like that's 10%. So that's not even close. But yeah, there are unfortunately most people see those people first because they're just more out there, and then they're like, okay, yeah, that's the stereotype. That where it's like, but like 90% of them, yeah, like they do other things. There's so much more to them than that, and that's why I love interviewing them because a lot of people can then just realize that like, hey, they're a lot more than doing that. And then when I have those meatheads on, I'm like, okay, you guys don't understand the damage that you're doing, but just go hide in a corner somewhere and don't like try to make people be aware of you too much because it's like, yeah, there's one guy like that in college where like, I swear to God, I don't even know if he went to classes. He just worked out all the time and basically was just, yeah, we called him Donk when behind his back just because he was just, that's just, he was like 6'8", just like 300 pounds and just, and he was just, and we're just like, dude, like, what do you, So yeah, I have no
That's
idea.
Mongo.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. So yeah, I will say that yeah, the vast majority of people on here are just not, they're not all about just the working out and stuff. But
Yeah. No, I've dedicated my whole lifestyle. I've changed it around. It's all about health and fitness and wellness and just encouraging others and educating others to be the best selves that they can be and to truly take care of yourself from within. Like for me, I'm not a typical trainer. I'm more of a mindful trainer. I try to get you to get that mind's eye connection back into your body because there's a difference between moving the weight versus connecting the muscles and pulling the weight and actually feeling the stimulation. A lot of it, it's taking people and having them go within and really feel what their body is doing. And so for me, it's a big passion for me.
so when you talk about that, like sort of the mind and muscle connection, because every time anyone mentions this, everyone has their own definition of like sort of what that is and how they imply it. So if someone here is just waking up from underneath a rock, how would you explain mind to muscle them and what you're talking about?
I mean, the biggest one I can tell you is everyone, 90% of people have seen the movie Kill Bill with Uma Thurman in it. When she's laying in the truck, the pussy wagon, she's sitting there and she's saying, wiggle your big toe, wiggle your big toe. And she does it until she gets that connection. It is that right there. It's, sorry, my cat.
Okay, that's the second time we've had a cat jump on everyone. Okay. First of all, little tangent. What's your cat's name?
That was Charlie.
Charlie. Okay, so I'm doing a compilation of when animals come on the podcast. Charlie has now immortalized himself by being on the pod. He was sitting in the back too on your bed when you lowered the camera down a little bit. So he will be on the podcast, everyone. That's yeah. So yeah, there's that.
My cats used to be, because my business was in my home before. My cats were very known with all my clients. They would come join our sessions. So now that I have my own facility in a building, everyone asks, "Are you going to get a mascot? Are you going to get a cat now? Are you going to have, your office kitty?"
My favorite podcast moment ever, and this is going in the podcast, I'm not editing this part out, is we had one guy, it was a guy bodybuilder on, and he had his trophies behind him, and the cat jumped up on the shelf and started kicking off his trophies while we were talking. And I said, you do realize that's staying in, though, because that's the greatest moment ever. So, hey, I'm
The
more of a
cat was
dog.
letting him know that he was the star of the show.
I'm more of a dog person. I mean, I've never had a cat before, but like we were just raised on dogs. But yeah, my dad absolutely loves cats, but my mom had the final say and said, no cats, basically. But yeah, so my great uncle does have a farm in Nebraska where they have like 100 cats, but it's sad because they're stray cats. So like every spring there'll only be like 30 of them left because then the coyotes come down.
Good
And
eating, I guess.
only two of them like will let you pet them because like they're like stray cats kind of they just leave like a bowl of food out there for them basically like that. So like only out of like the 100 of them, like two of them will let you pet them that are like actually friendly. But yeah, so everyone, that's my cat story. I don't want everyone to think about dead cats because that is good God. But hey, I guess that's nature. I
It's
guess so.
life.
Yep. So going on. So you were talking about mind to muscle connection before we got into the dead cat tangent.
I mean, hey, start talking about that connection again. A lot of it is just once you can really engage it. A lot of it is, there's a difference between, oh, here's my bicep and just flexing it. No, you have to really understand the connection. You're going to feel the way it pulls. You're going to feel that hard strain.
Yeah. And the thing that most people don't understand is that like you can feel it for one body part and it doesn't mean you're going to feel it for every other body. Like some body parts are so hard for it. Like legs, that's a really hard thing, especially for me to feel that mind muscle connection. Whereas like arms and back, it's a lot easier for me. It's just you're not gonna. It's like sort of like riding a bike though. Once you learn it, it's almost impossible to unlearn it. It's just that time because I've had people on where it takes them years to develop that any sort of really mind to muscle connection, and then once they do, it's like, oh, I can lift only about like 30% of the weight that I was lifting right now. And as long as, I do it right, I can get, the same results. So yeah, that's a big secret there that I think once a lot of people learn, it's.
Yeah, I will say there are times because, I've only been doing this for just over 3 years. There are days when I go in there, I have to reduce my weights because I have a better connection. Some days I don't have the best connection. It's kind of like a computer. Some days your computer is going to run perfectly. Other days it's kind of like, oh, I got to restart it 30 different times.
We know from this podcast, we know. Yes.
And so, some days they're not my best, but then other days they're even better. Like this whole week, because I've been fighting a cold, it hasn't been the best for me, but I've been able to reduce weight some days and feel a really good connection. And then, like my leg day yesterday, I was able to bump my weight back up and still feel really good finally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially fighting with training with illnesses is one of the worst things. Like I can remember there are times when I've had a sore throat, but like I've still went pull through, and it's just you're like literally just have like 3 cough drops. I would work out at home too. I wouldn't go to the gym because I wouldn't want to try and infect anyone else. But like I would just have cough drops in my mouth constantly, and then just be like sweat. It was, yeah, that is painful. But a part of bodybuilding that isn't talked about as much as it should be, that I really think it needs to be, and it's one of the hardest things. It might be the hardest thing for people is posing. Never would have guessed it in a million years. See, we get that reaction every single time. If you were to say, between posing and the nutrition and the working out, a lot of people would probably rank posing second or third. But for a lot of bodybuilders, is the hardest thing. What is your
Yes,
relationship with posing like?
hell.
Yeah.
A lot of it is because I do have injuries. I'm relearning how to realign my body to get the connection I need without flaring out my injury. One of them is because I have really bad tears in my labrums. They affect my lats. And so, specifically, my right side, that's my shoulder, that's injured the most. In the beginning, trying to get my lat to flare, it would pop up and then it would quiver and collapse. I wasn't able to actually engage it. And now finding out that I have a lat tear in the back of my left one, yeah, it's been fun. The other day I was posing, and because I was doing posing for so long, the next day my back felt like I got ran over. It was just so sore, and it was right in the areas of where all of my injuries were. And it was because I got such a hard connection and engagement, and all that blood stimulation was kind of like, whoa, where'd it come from? But it's kind of just like, riding the bike. Once you do it more and you can get through it, it becomes easier. But if you don't stay on top of it, it's still a bitch. 100%.
Out of the poses that you do, what is your favorite and what is your least favorite?
I hate the ab pose, and that's just because coming from being over 200 pounds and losing all this weight, I'm in the middle of doing a body recomposition and tightening my own skin up. I actually was gonna go get some surgery done, but my coach was like, "No, no, no, we got this." So now I'm going through it the all natural way of just dieting and getting my skin to retighten. And so for me, it's more of an insecurity hitting that ab pose and just seeing the skin all crinkled up. I hate it. I mean, I can live life without ever having to do that again. My favorite, that's a hard one. I'm trying to get my legs to get the connection again, but I will say the back double bicep, it's one of the best.
I was gonna say with your arms, if you're not saying anything bicep, I'd be like, what is wrong with you? If you're saying like, oh yeah, lat spreads my, I'd be like, okay, what's going on here, really, basically. But no, yeah.
No,
So
I like my back and I like my arms. And so anything that has my back and my arms involved, I feel like those are my highlights.
yeah, no, that's really all what it is too. And it's also like you said, like you got to find things with your legs. Like people don't understand when you're posing. Let's say you're even doing like a front double. Like it's not just the biceps; it's every single body part has to be at the right. That's the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with the most, where they just see like people just regular like just pose and they're like, oh, that's just what it is. It's like, nope, you got to tighten your core. You got to do the stuff with your legs. You got to get them just so much more than what the people think. And just that being able to hold that pose for as long as a lot of times you might have to too. I mean, that is one of the hardest things too. How long did it take you before you sort of have developed that muscle maturity that you're able to hold that? Because that is the biggest crux for so many people.
I still struggle with it. My friend, he is my former posing coach. He still is the one that walks me through it. He's mean. He's very I will be sitting there dripping sweat with puddles all around me, and I cannot let go of that pose until he says so. If I drop it, he makes me redo it and he'll restart the time.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, there has been days I
Have
wanted
you
to
ever got to
cry.
within like 3 or 2 seconds and then you accidentally dropped it and then he's got to do it again?
Yep. And a lot of it, it's he'll come over and he'll recorrect your positioning. You have to rehold it. And then it's kind of like, oh, I don't like that position. Let's try a different one.
Well, trust me, I've seen some videos of some embarrassing posing sessions on stage. So, I mean, I guess if it does anything for you, I mean, it's best to be that prepared. But good God, yeah, that would be an interesting relationship for me. I'd be like, okay, we might need to, be different now. So, but that's yeah, that's pretty insane for at least with that. But I mean, when it comes to posing, I mean, that is such a high score of your overall. I mean, you can have the best body of all time if you don't know how to pose. Good luck to you. So
And that's what it is. Posing is the number one importance when you're on stage because you have to be able to highlight and showcase what you just made. If you can't show correctly, you're not going to win it. It doesn't matter how big, how beautiful you are. It's about how well you can actually show it off.
mhm, absolutely. Talking about, the bad things about this sport, let's talk about cardio because I hate cardio more than life itself. When it comes to cardio, I mean, I go on walks all the time, but I'm talking about actual running. I've always made the joke, you're gonna have to chase me with a knife if you want to ever see me run. That's basically the only scenario that's ever gonna happen. But unfortunately, when you become a bodybuilder, you sort of have to sign a deal with the devil when it comes to cardio. What is your relationship like with cardio?
I do cardio 3 times a day right now. I do fasted, I do it post workout, and then I do a whole cardio session in the evening. Yep, my whole day
You have a
is
fun life.
yeah, I wake up, I train myself, I start training clients, I go back to the gym, train myself, go back to training clients, go back to the gym to train myself, and go back to training clients.
Oh,
That is my life.
you're doing 2 a day workouts?
3.
So you're doing 3 workouts and 3 cardio sessions?
Yeah, my first fasted cardio, I have to do leg workouts and booty workouts inside of that. So I do types of kettlebell swings and lunges. My second workout is my major workout, and then followed by cardio on that one. And then my third one, it's going to be cardio again. And then that one's going to be with core and stretching.
Okay, that's the first time we've ever had someone do 3 a days on this podcast. So hey, that is so like how do you even recover from that? Because that alone just sounds like about death to me. Like that would be one of those things where like I would just do you. I hopefully you sleep like a baby.
Actually, no. I get maybe 6 to 7 hours averagely, sometimes 4.5 to 5. My sleep is what I struggled with the most. And right now, because I am in the thermogenic burn, I'm waking up 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night to change because I'm soaking wet.
Yeah, that's usually a bad sign for me. If that ever happened to me during the college days, that's when I knew I was going to throw up. Really, if you woke up sweating, so that was. If that ever happened to me now, like I would probably freak out because I'd be like, "Oh my god, that's gonna happen." I mean, yeah, that is
Nope,
so.
I told my coach, and she's like, "Oh, you're beautiful.
Yeah,
That's exactly where you need to be." And I'm like,
four
"Okay, thanks."
4 hours of sleep and still doing 3 days. How do you find that? So this is the thing that fascinates me the most about people that are in this lifestyle is like they have that drive and that dedication that's just it's so rare and you just can't really quantify it. But where do you think that motivation comes from for you, especially on those days where you're getting 4 hours of sleep and you have to do 3 days?
It's what I want. It comes down to this has been a big dream for me. Being somebody who was very fit younger and then all of a sudden being riddled with health issues and putting on over 100 pounds. I mean, there was days that I contemplated suicide just from how unhappy I was to where I'm at right now. This means the world to me. I would not trade it for anyone. Yeah, I mean, there's some days that I wake up and I do not want to do it, but those are the days I have to do it more because I can't let that take away the love and the passion that I have for it. Yes, I'm going to be tired. Yes, I'm going to be cranky. But in the end, do I want to reach my goals or do I want to sit here and always say, what if?
Yeah. I I totally feel that 100%. There's been days where I've actually had that same motivation where it's like, do I just honestly just want to quit and then not see like 5 years down the road where I might be at, either whether it's with podcasting, it's my other jobs that I've had, or just everything in general. I think a lot of people go with that, but yeah, one thing that I think separates bodybuilding from the general public is like they're able to just find that way, especially when it comes to the health aspect and the working out. Because believe me, this lifestyle is so much more than working out. I mean, the working out takes up what 10% of your time, maybe at the most. So it's there's just so much more to it. But
It is a lifestyle,
oh
100%.
yeah, and I mean this is also a thing that I've always found kind of funny, and even though it's not really that funny, is that there's still so many women that still have that fear that if they walk into the gym and they even look at a dumbbell, they're going to put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. Which I've always told them, if that does happen to you, first of all, just don't work out then, and then you'll lose it. Like you won't. People don't understand when you gain muscle, like you have to work to maintain it. Like you can't just, you're not just gonna like look. There's a reason why, like, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. He doesn't look like he did when he was. I mean, it's just some people just have that belief, but like there's so many women though that still have that myth, and I always tell them it's like, first of all, everybody and their brother would want to buy whatever you're selling. Then you'd probably be the first ever trillionaire if that ever did happen to you. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't, I mean, I bet being that you work with a lot of other people, you still hear that all the time. How do you like to respond to that?
I hear it all the time. That is the number one with my clients. They always tell me, well, I don't want to look like you in the gym. And I'm like, you won't. Like, this has taken years and it has taken brutality and death sessions and pretty much a lot of self-hate to get where I'm at. And I was like, trust me, you will not look like me unless you put the work into it and you eat all the time. Once I tell them that, they're like, oh, and it's more or less, it's letting them know that actually it's better to have mass on you. A lot of it is I work a lot with seniors. And so for me, the biggest sell point for them when they tell me, well, I don't want to get big and bulky, it's you won't get big and bulky, but you're protecting your body because you have to look at the slip and risk for when you fall. If you don't have any muscle around your bone, you're going to break versus getting a nasty bruise. And so it's looking at, do you want a broken bone or would you rather just get a big bruise? And then another one, it takes 70 calories per 1 pound of muscle if you look at it that way. So you can actually eat a lot more food if you have more muscle on you. And a lot of my clients love to eat.
Yep. Have you ever worked with just a jack senior? Because I gotta say, like, some of the 50 and 60-year-olds I've had on the podcast are like the most inspiring guests for me.
One of my favorite clients, I've had him for 2 years.
I mean, they piss me off, but they're inspiring.
He's in his mid 70s and he's in a phenomenal shape. We argue, we butt heads all the time. And it's because he's old school. He remembers what he did back in the day. And a lot of it is you have to remember your age now. You can't keep doing the same thing.
You're not doing 100 burpees, old man. Like, calm down, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, he always tells me, well, I just did 300 reps. And I'm like, okay, I don't care how many reps you did. I'm like, did you feel your connection?
Yeah. That's another big thing, too. Yeah. Especially, and I don't mean to say this the wrong way, but especially with the ladies in the gym, a lot of times, like, you'll see them with, like, the 5-pound dumbbells just literally doing, like, 100 reps, and you're like, that doesn't do anything. That's like what I was doing when I was like, that's what I was doing when I was like 12 years old and like just first working out, basically. You're just like, but you know, yeah, there's a lot of it too. Yeah. Like you said, it all comes back to the mind muscle connection, which is a big thing that, you know.
My favorite thing to do, especially for females that are, interested in getting into the gym, a lot of it is I don't mind giving free sessions. Especially if you are very hesitant or you're scared and you don't know. Okay, well, come here. Let me show you. I have clients that have came to me and they come to me specifically because for one, I'm short. And so I understand the struggles. And then two, because I take the time to actually understand what they're going through and to help them. And a lot of it is just showing them that actually lifting heavier weights makes you feel better. You're not sitting there and exhausting yourself and getting this huge giant like cardiovascular cardio burn, but instead you're going to actually stimulate your body. You're going to start feeling better and you're going to get more energized from it.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, just the motivation that, and what is your favorite part about being a personal trainer? What is your least favorite part about being a personal trainer?
I love to help people so much that I forget I still need my own time.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times, if I don't book my own training in the day or I book my things that I need, my schedule will get so full of just helping others. And it's kind of like, I have to help myself or I'm not going to be able to help them. That would be the hardest part. The best part is seeing them get the connection and falling in love with health and fitness and just, them noticing that it doesn't matter what the scale's saying. I hate what the scale says. I don't care about what your weight is. I care about how you're feeling and those non-scale victories about were you able to actually shower safely? Were you able to go hiking with your family and friends? Were you able to bend down? Are you able to do this? Like to me, that is what I find the best. Seeing a client come back and tell me like, oh my God, I was able to go hiking with my daughter this weekend and I didn't get winded or my knee's not bugging me anymore, or I was able to actually step over a log. Like to me, that is why I do what I do. Having them come back and tell me that they're living a life now with meaning, because I've had clients tell me that I am their last hope, that they are falling apart, that they don't know what to do, and they're just going into this huge depression. And it's kind of like, I'm going to keep getting worse. And so being able to extend that hand and help pull them out of that hole and to see that light, that is what means the world to me and what I do. And that's why I keep doing what I do.
And everyone, don't listen to BMI, first of all. That's the biggest BS. According to the BMI, I am considered slightly obese at 6'3", 210 pounds. So it's like,
I'm still obese.
Yeah. Like every bodybuilder I've had on the show is considered obese then, according to that. So like a lot of people just that's their Bible. And it's like, no, there's like, look at someone like Aaron Judge. I actually did a funny thing where it's like Aaron Judge would be considered obese if you really if you looked at it, and it's like, yeah, and everyone in the NFL would be considered obese too, basically, if you really went down. So it's just, yeah, don't listen to that too.
BMI,
But
it needs to be thrown out.
mhm.
Honestly, it needs to be redone because they don't take into consideration where your muscle mass is, where the weight's coming from. They just look at, oh, weight, height, up, this is where you're at.
Yeah.
No, to me, it's more or less what your weight is made up of. And so for me, it's really important to make sure that you have a lower body fat and higher mass count.
Yeah, it worked good in like the early 1900s when like literally there weren't really gyms, so like no one exercised, because then they're just like, oh, okay, then that's a general thing. But it's like now that like people, yeah, it's just a whole different thing. But we got to talk about now my favorite question for you, being that you are on the shorter side too. This is already hard enough for it is the clothing options, but then being your size now. See, yep, I knew that was going to happen. How do you find clothes for you? Because it's like, first of all, being on the shorter side, it is harder even just without any muscle on you. But like when you're that huge too, it's like there are not that many clothes designed for like buff short women. It's just,
I've always had a hard time shopping for clothes because, for one, I was overweight and short, things didn't fit me. And now it's kind of like if it fits me in my legs, it is 3 or 4 inches too big in my waist. So my favorite things are leisure wear. I love my athletic wear. I wear a lot of just like lycra made clothing, anything that has stretch. I have a few pairs of jeans, but it's more or less I have to find like attachable buttons to put buttons on to get the waist to fit. It's a struggle. Shirts, yeah, I can't wear button ups because they never fit me in my arms or they don't fit me in my waist. I have already ripped through a few shirts in the backs by putting them on and just moving my arms.
I'm telling you out there, I've said this a bunch of times, but anyone can come up with like a line of clothes for fit people in general. I mean, it's a gold mine out there waiting to happen. Not too many people have done it for like just like stretchy things that can like just align with you, or yeah, or sort of like if you've seen like Back to the Future Part 2 and he puts on that jacket and it just like shrinks to his size and stuff, and it's like anything. If you were to come up with that, anyone out
My
there.
thing is, if you look at children's clothes, that's what they have built in. Why can't they just, make that an adult wear fitness? I mean, get a pair of pants that has, the little buttons and the elastic band in there so you can open them up and make them bigger or smaller. Like, that would be life.
That, and also when you have, my head is like abnormally pretty big, so like that is just a ridiculous thing for me. That's my biggest struggle too. Is like I went to a Great Gatsby party last weekend, or no, 2 weekends ago, right before Halloween. It was like a game night party, and like I couldn't even find one of those gangster hats to wear because like it was just too, it just doesn't fit. So yeah, everyone, yeah, we all got our struggles when it comes to deal with. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the clothing options, that's always one of my favorite questions to ask, because yeah, it's just not too many people can really find that now.
No, and because the clothing industry is so biased, just because it's a medium doesn't mean it's a medium at all. They're so size biased for people.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it is. We could do an entire podcast on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the clothing industry is. I did have one of my, before I started having bios on. I did have one guy that designs fashion on, and that was a cool conversation. He had like all of his sewing machines behind him and stuff. But like, so I talked to him a little bit about that. But yeah, that is the fashion. Just yeah, just how they decide sizes and stuff like that. I've always just found that to be really interesting and peculiar. So I might actually have to go and talk to someone else, because that has always been a topic that I've actually wanted to expand on. But going back into bodybuilding, because believe me, you get me in a tangent, Mary, and next thing you know, we're going to be here for 10 hours, and then I'm just going to be like, and now with the clothing, or like now with World War II, or now with blah, 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 like any of the, like, yeah, so literally that's what's going to happen here. So
But I'll be able to support every conversation.
that too, so that's good. Hey, she's a natural, everyone. Like some of my guests, like, that I have on, I love every guest that I have on, but I've had some guests where it's literally, why don't you just share your journey with us? Oh, I just was unhealthy, and then I just wanted to get in shape, so I started working out. And you're just like,
See,
yeah. They're like, okay,
that's
this
how
is going to be
I
a
was
rough
in the
one.
beginning because I actually get very embarrassed by my story, but a lot of people say it's very beautiful. There's a lot of connection people can find with it. It's because it comes from struggling with addiction and then, trying to find a way to make means to get where I needed to go. And so that's one of the biggest things. It's very relatable. Just because mine was alcohol doesn't mean my addiction doesn't transpire to other people's addiction. Addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter what you're addicted to, it's still going to be a nasty devil to break.
See, there's that level though of where I get like the 5 second answer, and then there's my record where I asked that question 28 minutes later. I was able to get in my second question. Granted, your answer lasted about like 40 seconds, so 28 minutes long.
I have found ways to condense what I say.
Oh no, but like this person, like after about 10 minutes, because like I've only had 3 guests go over 15 minutes, and so once we get to 10 minutes, it's kind of like how in baseball, like after like 7 innings, if he's got a no hitter going, you're like, oh my god, can they do it? Can they do it? And then after 15, like I literally am just like rooting for them, like silent, like I'm not telling them like, hey, you're bet. I just don't say anything, and I'm like, please say something more, please. And then not even with a beat, this person for like 28 minutes, and this was like one of my first 10 bodybuilding podcasts that I did, so it was probably like 3 years ago, and yeah, that's the gold standard. But one of the things that I do have to ask you, because when we talk about, like I always ask that question of like, what's one body part that took off for you and what's one body part that, dragged behind? For women, one of the biggest answers is shoulders for the body part that didn't take off for them. And yours, like you said, they're nice and you get compliments on them a lot. Even though you're injured, how are you able to incorporate workouts with your shoulders? Because having both of them injured, like the fact that you just said you found out after still training them, like is amazing to me. But how do you train shoulders? Because I would get comments down below saying like, Ryan, why didn't you ask her how she trains her shoulders? I've been trying to grow them since 2005, basically, or something like that.
Um, I didn't have shoulders in the beginning. I've literally have built these since 2020. When I first got into bodybuilding, that was one of the things that I was told. They're like, you need to start building your shoulders. And in the beginning, it was, well, I don't know how. Like every time I do a movement, there's a lot of pain. Like, what do I do? And people didn't really give me any pointers on that. And so for me, it was trying to find what felt the best. And so once again, it's just you knowing your body and knowing how to manipulate what you're doing. Because I have, taken the time, I have done a lot of like rehab for it. I do a lot of mobility and functionality training for them that I'm able to now support a lot heavier. Like in the beginning, I was not able to do a lateral raise, but now I can do lateral raises with 70 pounds.
Wow. And I'm trying to look up because I just had this tangent in my head where there's this actress. I don't know if you get this comment a lot, but there's this one actress from Australia that like you are the spitting image of, at least like face wise. She's not as jacked as you, unfortunately. But like I'm trying to, I forgot what it was, so I'm gonna try to think of the movie. So that's why I was on my phone. 'Cause I was like looking down like movie where it's like a family game. I forget. She's been in quite a few movies. She was in I don't know. I'll try to think of it. Everyone. But yeah, just everyone listen to her answer too. That's my ADHD thing where I was just thinking of like, oh wait, she kind of reminds me of that one thing. Because I've had a few people where like they look very similar. Where unfortunately for me, I look like no celebrity, and that's a good thing because I don't think they'd be that famous then. But anyways, so enough of me just ripping myself apart. But yeah, shoulders. And the one thing that I find so funny about shoulders though too is that a lot of people when I ask them like, oh, what are you training today, and they just go, oh, shoulders, and I was like, oh, what part? They go, what? And I'm like, oh, there's more than one part to the shoulder, right? And they're like, no. They're like, I'm just gonna do some lateral raises and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that works like one part, and then if you do it right, you can probably work like two-thirds of the parts. But it's like you're not gonna be able to get every. So it's just a lot of people just don't understand that micro details of like, yeah, there's more than one part to a muscle. It's
That's
just
why I like to do muscle specifics.
yeah.
I have done many different styles of training because I do have, once again, a lot of injuries. A lot of them are in my hands too. So I do know that when I'm trying to do like more of a bulking, it's harder to lift heavy weights with such specific ones. And so for those days, I will go back to a push pull legs just because, it's easier to weight load and do everything at once and, switch to something else to give yourself a break. But right now, I'm back into muscle specific. I have just a distinct shoulder day. Today was just chest, but yes, in chest, your shoulders are engaged, but it's knowing how to lock them in place. I hate when people say lock out. There's a big difference between lock out and lock in. Lock out, pass out, lock in, do the weight correctly. But and so it's knowing how to put them in place, hold them there, and still be able to move the weight. So for my shoulder days, I usually take about 2 hours, and that's because there are many. My workouts are typically anywhere from 2 to 4 hours long. Yes, I know I get weird looks all the time, and my
What the
coaches
hell are
say
you doing in a 4-hour workout?
usually it's back or legs.
You poor thing.
And I have two different leg days. I have a quad day, and then I have a hamstring and glute day. Yeah, and then back, it's just back.
More
I am
power
a
to
glutton
you.
for punishment. I like long sessions. Like I said, it's a therapy session for me. I love being in there. And a lot of it is trying to find different movements to get where I'm wanting to go. So for me, like today, it was my chest day, but doing incline, you're going to include your shoulders right there. There is no way to not in that incline position. It's going to start feeding into the upper tie-ins. So it's just knowing how to do those correctly. Same with when I'm doing decline and doing pullovers, your shoulders are going to be engaged, but it's knowing how to lock them down to really get more of that chest focus. So on shoulder days, I will hit all of the angles. I will do the front, I will do the sides, and I will do the rears all the time.
I mean, yeah, and the gym bro in me just has to ask too because this is gonna be bleeped out. But like, what the fuck do you do for arms too? Because that is bullshit. Like I've seen your post and I'm like, that is just bullshit. I hate to be the guy that's just asking like, what do you do for shoulders? But like when the gym bro in me who loves arms, it's just like when you see that you're like, so what the hell do you do for arms? Because I know a lot of it is genetic too, but a lot of it also is just like, what the hell?
A lot of it actually, it's people do triceps incorrect. People rob themselves with maximizing the position. And so one of the things is I actually will model it real quick. When people do triceps, you will see this. You will see
Hang
this.
on, you got to pull the sleeves up a little bit so everyone can see.
Hold on. I have a sports bra on,
Oh,
guys.
okay,
Don't
that's fine.
worry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um, so when you're going into triceps, you'll see people do this number.
Yeah,
What's happening? You're blocking off the whole bottom head of your tricep by pushing it down. And you're only activating one. Now, if you actually move your arms more in front and push out down, you're going to get the full engagement.
yeah.
And so it's knowing how to lean over, pull your arms down, lock them in to pull that weight. And so it's just positioning. For biceps, I do a lot of drag curls. I do a lot of supersetting and gain sets for my arms to where by the time I'm done, they feel like they're going to explode because I got so much blood flow to them.
Yeah. No, and I've always said like, yeah, triceps are like 75% of your arm. You have nice triceps, you can have crappy biceps, and you'll get away with it. That was for me too. Was my triceps was probably the second most genetic thing that just took off for me, just because I don't know why. And we got cats going on background, and everyone just ignore it. Be cool, cats do their thing. No, I'm just kidding. But like, yeah, triceps for me, yeah, that is the biggest thing that I always tell people. And yeah, I was that one gym bro, especially in high school, where I just stood next to this machine and I was just doing it like that. And then, yeah, I learned that like in college too, because one guy came up to me, he's like, "Hey, I know, like you might think you're getting results, but like I know ways to do a little bit better." And he was really, and he taught me, yeah, you got to like bend, you got to like really feel that connection. So yeah, that is actually a big. I appreciate that you mentioned that because I was honestly I forgot about that whole thing like when I first learned that myself. So yeah, that is great. Now, I mean, we go to my final two questions here before we wrap things up. Mary, if there was one thing that you could change about this health and fitness lifestyle in general, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed? And everyone would have to go along with it.
Um, that eating healthy is not expensive. Eating organic and bougie is expensive, but just because it's labeled organic doesn't mean you're actually getting farm fresh, no pesticides. That's just another, marketing tactic right there to charge you another $10. It's no, knowing that it's okay to eat canned food versus bag versus fresh. It's all the same nutrients. It's literally learning and teaching people that it's okay to shop on a budget but still eat healthy. That it's actually more detrimental to go buy all those frozen foods that you can just microwave and stuff like that. Actually taking the time to eat.
One of my coworkers at my warehouse job would always complain about how much healthy food costs, and then he would go spend $25 on McDonald's for lunch, and then you're just like, I don't know what's going on there. I mean, it's just yeah, it is ridiculous. Where then they complain about that, and then they're like, well, if you really look at your food bill, like yes, it is expensive, but it's not nearly as bad as what people think it is.
I always tell people the startup and the investment. That's where it makes it expensive. Turning your life, getting into a new hobby, a new activity, anything that you do in the beginning, it's going to cost you money. But it's knowing that once you get the investment into it, it actually ends up being so much cheaper. Once you know what you're eating and you eat regularly, you actually will cut your food bill down by half, if not more. Because at that point in time, instead of buying things that you're going to waste or you don't like, you know what you're going to eat, you know what your body's going to process. And so at that point in time, you can actually budget and plan ahead.
Mhm. Well, I totally forgot about this question, so we got to add the one more because this is one, especially for someone with your journey. Because I say this to a lot of people that might have been like obese to start out with. A lot of times when people are obese and they lose weight, they still sort of identify as the obese person just because that was you for a long period of time where you will see yourself just as the person. Like I don't really know how to compare it myself because like I can't really shrink myself, and then I'll be like I always identify as the tall person. But there are times where I've talked to people who like yeah they had their growth spurt when they were like in their early 20s, and then they always identified kind of as the short person because they were just used to that. But like with your weight journey, was that hard for you to sort of shed that identity that you had as sort of like the overweight person, or was it one of those things that you're just like I can't wait to get rid of it, or is there still some times right now where even now you still feel like at times like the your old self even though you aren't?
I actually have really bad body dysmorphia.
Oh, a bodybuilder with bad body dysmorphia. Oh my god. Call the
Who
press.
knew?
Yeah.
So I actually still really struggle with that.
No, hang on 1 second. I have people that compete at the Olympia texting me before saying, "Do I look good?" And then I tell them, "Look in a goddamn mirror, you effing idiot." Like, what do you talk? So, but again, it's based on other people. But still, I find that to be. I hate to say it, but I do find it to be like the funniest thing to me is the body dysmorphia among the most in shape people on the planet, and you're just like, what that. Yeah, but I understand why because yeah, I understand like the mentality of the sport and stuff like that. But I still that doesn't mean I can't make fun of them secretly and just
Yeah.
laugh at them and just be like, okay,
It's also because I'm hypercritical of myself. I don't compare myself to people at my level. I only compare myself to the elite. Because if that's my image, that's my goal, why would I compare to myself anyone else? Like, why would I pick anyone less to be like, okay, that's what I want to look like? No, for me, I pick the best of the best. I look at only the elites, the pros that have been doing this for years. And that's where I get my body dysmorphia. And that's where my issues arise from. Because, yes, granted, people tell me all the time, I look great where I'm at. Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. But I feel so tiny and small compared to what I want to be and looking at these pros. And so for me, I'm trying to do a double show in July. Well, it's July 1 and then a few weeks later because I know I'm going to place, going in confident. Once I place in my opening, I'm going to go after my pro card for the Nationals and USA Championships in Vegas. So for me, I have a lot of work to do to get where I want to go to get my goals accomplished. And so I feel like I struggle the most with thinking, okay, like I'm great where I'm at. I need to be more appreciative of where I'm at. That's why I struggle because I look at, these huge pros that are in classes and divisions that I'm going to be in bigger divisions. Like I'm going for women's physique. So I look at figure builders and I'm like, dude, you're so much bigger than me. Like, what the fuck? But this is where the big issue comes from. They are 5'5", 5'7",
they
five
still don't have
nine.
your figure compare still don't have your upper body. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, it's just if you look at them, you look at somebody who's a figure competitor, typically they're going to be in the mid 5 foot range. Okay, that is a good 6 to 7 inches on me. So you look at their frame is bigger. So of course they're going to have a wider back than me. And so when I look at it that way, I feel so small. But I have to remember for my size, for how tall I am, I have great mass. Somebody I think did the conversions for me. If I was 6 foot, apparently I would have like 18-inch arms, 29-inch thighs, and stuff like that. So I'm like, I guess I would be okay.
I got some work to do then, I guess. Good God. Being 6'3" then. So, good God. That's why I've always said the 6 footers that I have on the podcast are, no offense, they are the most impressive guests to me because to be able to put on that size when you're like that big and that long, it's like it's a little bit harder, but still being on the shorter side too, that is no cakewalk as well. But yeah, that is, I mean, yeah, there's just so much with this sport that a lot of people, there's just so many little idiosyncrasies that a lot of people do not get. And now, lastly, when we do have you on a year from now, because I'd love to talk to you in a year, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding journey? Where would you like to be at in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
I want to be able to get my pro card. I really do. I would love to be able to get my business to blossom more. Right now, I am a sole owner and I'm the only one working in my facility. I would love to be able to bring on more trainers to actually expand and help more people, whether it's virtually or in person. I just want to be able to get my brand to go bigger because I work a lot with medical offices and getting people that have injuries or just, not in the best shape and getting them into the gym and actually thriving in life. So for me, it would be being able to get my pro card, being able to actually, start touring and going around and competing in those shows, but at the same time, growing my actual business to help more people.
That is great. And I'll leave a link to her business and all that other stuff down below. And if anyone's in the Oregon area, I'll leave a link to her gym down below that you guys can go and visit if you're in the area. And again, yeah, it was so great having you on. Lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
One of the biggest people in my life right now that actually has helped me get where I'm going, and I would not be where I'm at without him. It was my very first coach and my posing coach, Tony Haas. He has been my number one since day one. And he's always been the one person that saw me and was like, no, you have what it takes. If it wasn't for him, he's my rock.
Is he that psychopath that does the timing thing with you when posing?
Yes. He's the one that
Tony,
keeps me going.
you gotta lay down a little bit, man. I mean, good God,
I mean,
there's being a
he is
dictator and then
hard
there's
on me
being
for
a
a reason.
dictator. Like that's come on, man, dude. No, I know, but like that's I've heard that story a couple times with people, but I haven't heard them people like actually doing it. Like I've had coaches that have threatened to do that, and then your coach like actually does that. So,
Oh yeah, he'll make me hold it until whenever he wants me to let it go.
oh, if I were him, I'd be like,
And
yeah,
I'm
I'm
so
going on a bathroom break right now. You better, I have a camera on you, so you better hold it the whole time. Otherwise, we're gonna turn off
he would
the
come back and watch it
turn
too.
off the lights too. Have like night vision goggles and stuff like that. Make sure that you're not moving a muscle. Basically, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that who knows? But again, shout out to Tony. I'll leave a link to his stuff down below if he has an Instagram page. But again, Mary, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your story. As soon as I saw one of her Instagram posts that was how I found you is how find most people. You like just randomly. Just you're on your feed, you might see like when you go to like the search thing, you have like photos, and I saw one of you like doing curls, and I was like, okay, this is just absolutely ridiculous. We got to get her on the podcast. So, yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.